All right, guys, thank you for joining another episode of the Real Estate Revolution. And my name is Mike Jackson. I am with LPT Realty based out of Orlando, Florida. And I have my co host with me, and I'll let him introduce himself.
What's up, everybody? Eric Berry here, Rocket Digital Marketing, hanging out with Mike today with LPT. Just ready to talk to some interesting folks online here.
Awesome, awesome, guys. And before we get the show started, make sure you hit the thumbs up, the subscribe, and the like, whatever you want to call it, so that way we can, get that support going. All right, so we have a very special guest on this show. One of my good friends is, as I want to say as well. I don't even like calling him a guest, and I'm gonna let him introduce himself real quick.
My name is Christopher Dale. People ask me if I go by Chris or Christopher. I say, you pick it. I always introduce myself the same. Some people call me Dale. I have a very interesting story to tell, and I'll let you guys kind of ask the questions. And I am a certified financial planner. That is what I do for a living. Mike and I got to meet each other through playing basketball some many moons ago.
Yeah, many moons ago. Emphasize. Yeah, so that's awesome, man. So thank you for joining us this evening, and we're hoping to get out some good, valuable information and content for those of you watching. So let's jump into it, man. So can you tell us a little bit about the background of how you got into this field, and just explain a little bit more about what you actually do, just for the people's knowledge?
Okay, I'm going to take this back a few decades. So I got into financial planning, so to speak, in regards to having a love of money. I came from some very humble beginnings. And, when you have your lights cut off, water cut off, you have your cereal boxes, you got bugs crawling in them, and, you pour out the cereal, you got bugs in your cereal box or cereal bowl, and you got to eat it anyways. And that kind of extends to money. And as a kid, not having any money, I wanted to make sure that I had a grip on money as I became an adult. And fast forward into my career came to a crossroads. And it came to a crossroads because my parents were sick. My parents were young, meaning in their late 50s, early 60s. My mother had early onset of dementia. My mother had breast cancer in the 90s, and she had very aggressive treatments, bone marrow transplant, radiation, chemotherapy, and that brought on the early onset of dementia. So I became basically the primary caregiver of my mother and my father, and they lived 2 blocks away. And you talk about having that experience, you have your own career, you're newly married, and you're having to take care of your folks, and not necessarily just take care of them physically. You're having to worry about all the financial stuff. In your early 20s, you got no money. And so I had no money. I had to figure out stuff very, very quickly. And so I became a financial planner kind of during that period and figuring stuff out on the fly. And the best way that I can describe it is learning how to kind of manipulate, or I want to say a better word is massage the system, the financial system. And my wife and I bought my parents' house. And again, we had no money. I had to leverage things to buy their house. We had just bought our own house. And but I knew as a financial person that my parents are going to run out of money, and they did. And I had to be in a position to be able to finance them and fund them for whatever came. And so you fast forward probably 5 years or 6 years, my mother went into a nursing home, and it was about $5,000 or $6,000 a month. She was only in the nursing home before she passed away, about 2.5, maybe 3 months. That money came out of my pocket and my wife's pocket. And again, you have to figure out on the fly how to do things. And my father passed away a couple months after my mother passed away. I'm kind of getting through the process of grief. My paternal grandmother passes away, and then that was about a year and a half later. And if that wasn't the icing on the cake, my wife and I were expecting twins. And my oldest twin is a survivor, and we lost a twin. And so you couple all of those experiences that bring me here into what I do now. And so my experience is very personal. It is very professional. And I left my prior firm because they weren't doing enough in regards to the clients that I could potentially serve. There was a conflict in regards to them wanting me to kind of pad the bottom line versus my certification. And I'm not going to jump your questions. I'm just kind of lead into them. So that's kind of why I do what I do. And I specifically serve people that were like me about 12, 15 years ago that had no guidance. And the people that I serve are people that are in grief, and not necessarily someone that has died. It could be the grief of losing a friendship, retirement. It could be losing an animal. One of the new griefs that I've experienced is incarceration. I've had a couple of clients that had family members suddenly going to, either federal or county prison. So.
Wow. Wow, that's very powerful, man. Thank you for sharing that. I mean, to give that history in such a short span of time right here, man, is powerful because me listening to it, I'm just in awe at how you were managed to go through that and then looking so good and handsome right now to stand in front of us right now, man. It's just like, man, that's most people, man, they would have a hard time most people have a hard time just getting themselves ready for work. So this right here is like to the 10th degree of things that you had to overcome. I want to say also separate of the show, man, just as a friend as well, I'm proud of you, man. And your purpose means a lot. So keep doing what you're doing, man, because those kind of stories is what humanity needs to hear in times of crisis, man. So thank you for sharing that with us, man. With that being said, and how you evolve with overcoming adversity, when you get with clients, do you have certain type of clients that you work with, or like how does it go? Do you give consultations? How does it go with the clients that you deal with, like when you get somebody wanting to get some financial planning advice?
So I'm going to take a step back to something that you had mentioned. So this isn't all about Chris Dale getting from point A to point Z. There was a lot of help in between. There was a lot of counseling. There was a lot of good people. And first and foremost, my spirituality and my belief in God. I had a lot of key people in my life that said, Chris, your purpose is more than what you have experienced. Your purpose is what I said to you guys, before we, jumped on kind of live, is that I've been given this gift, and I call this gift of grief what I bring to the world and the bright shining light that I help other people with. Right. And so to answer your question directly, Mike, the people that I work with are people in grief. Specifically, if someone comes to me and they are not in grief, I turn them away and I hand them off to a peer of mine, and I do that through an initial consultation, directly to answer your question. And so the consultation serves a couple of purposes. So someone may not necessarily come to me and say, hey, Chris, I have grief, I want to work with you. I don't expect that. I expect to have a consultation with somebody, and from the consultation, me to understand what they've been through in their life. And when somebody reads or they listen to what I've been through or some of the things that I give to the world, it brings them comfort. And so it brings us together. And I expect people to do a lot of research before they come to me. And because I have a lot of information out there, and it helps to screen who doesn't want to work with me. And so the initial consultation, it could be a half hour, it could be an hour. And we, really get down to the nitty gritty. And this is kind of on a financial, tip. However, most of the time that I spend with clients is not financially related. And that's kind of hard to believe because I'm a financial guy. But most of the time that I spend with clients is talking to them about their experience and how it relates to my experience. And the financial piece, I can tell you, is very easy because I've done this for 19 years. I use other people's experiences to channel for other people for their benefit. And so the hard part is, getting the confidence, in that individual or couple or family, and, kind of figuring out, do I want to work with them? Is my firm a good fit for them? And is is my firm a good fit for myself, for them? So it's equally on both pages. And there are times that I have to say to somebody, I don't think that my firm is a good fit for you.
Yeah.
However, I have somebody that I think would be a better fit for you. And conversely, there's a client that can say, Chris, I don't think that, you're the right fit for me. And that's honest. And that's done through the consultation. Also through the consultation, we figure out what you need. And so I'm thinking about, and I like to use examples. I'm thinking about a widow that I met probably 2 or 3 years ago. She came to me and she had all this stuff that she needed to, kind of get through because her husband passed away. And through that, we figured out very quickly what her needs were. And her needs are different than a lot of other people. And so we figured that out through an initial conversation. She and I met at Starbucks for about an hour and kind of figured out kind of the blueprint. You guys are business people. Her business plan, basically, for her financial life.
Right. Wow, that's powerful, man. So I like the part that you said. Well, I like everything you said. I'm gonna be real with you. I mean, everything is just inspired, man. The one part that really stuck out to me, and I'm gonna turn it to Eric here because I know Eric got some questions for you too, man. We all are excited about this. The one thing that stood out about me, man, is that you don't work with everybody, and that's so important. You said that because as a realtor, I can't stress enough to the team that I have. Hey guys, everybody's not for you. There's a thing called referrals, and you have to use them, because if you try to squeeze what's that saying, a square in a peg hole or something like that, you're going to end up burning yourself out, and then you're not going to be a service really to the person you're trying to serve, because there are just some people that might not fit with what you're trying to do. And I tell people all the time, it is okay to say no. It's okay. People receiving the word no or not getting help should not take it personally, because you know what? If someone tells you no from a good intent place, they're telling you that because they want you to do better than what you are. But if you just be a yes man, then you are the one inside not really, feeling like you're being a service, if that makes sense. So that's really key that you said that, man. I'm gonna turn it over here to Eric.
Yeah, that's awesome stuff, Chris. I mean, it's definitely a powerful message that you're talking about there. Working with people who are going through these rough times in their life and all. But no, that's some good stuff, and definitely making sure you work with the right people is always a big thing for people, and knowing when it's time to say no to a client and all. But when you do have those clients, I know you said you refer some people out at times, but I know I get hit up a lot of times by financial planners and advisors online. But where would somebody go to, kind of some resources consumers can go to kind of find qualified financial planners or advisors? Say they don't find you, and of course we would love for them to work with you if they need to. But where would you recommend people starting to kind of get an idea and doing some research on that stuff, Ed?
Sure. I have a couple of sites that I actually refer clients to do background checks on me.
Okay.
And so I am a certified financial planner, and I'll kind of get into that a little bit later, which is different than a financial planner. So I encourage people to go to cfp.net, and a certified financial planner, you have to go through a rigorous curriculum. You have to have so many hours of professional experience, and then you have to take an exam. And that's one aspect. Financialplanningassociation.org. It's basically a group of people like me that belong to a membership organization. You can find people there. And then if you really want to get into the weeds and kind of do some background checking on the individual, want to make sure that they have not gotten in trouble, which is important, have not gotten sued or done some nefarious things. So you can go to the SEC website. It's sec.gov. And then you can also go to brokercheck.finra, and FINRA is spelled FINRA.org. And on there, you can check out how long they've been in the industry, who they've worked for, and you can check out if they have any dings on their record. And you can also check out their certifications and such. So those are probably the 4 top that I would recommend. And again, when I interact with a client or a prospect, I say, go here. And I can tell you that, as I'm blue in the face, that I'm, greater than gold, but I want you to see who you're dealing with. And, it's very black and white, and it's very transparent.
Yeah, that's that's definitely some good information to follow up on, and we can actually make sure have a lot of those links tied into the description here below. But I appreciate you giving that information there. That definitely is some good information to follow up on and do your due diligence when bringing on a financial planner or advisor and all. But so when I was doing some research here in the just take a look at some of the background stuff there and all, but the difference between a fiduciary and a non-fiduciary, can you explain a little bit of that for
Sure. I'm going
those
to,
who?
yep, I'm going to be very simplistic.
Okay.
A fiduciary is simply someone who puts their needs, excuse me, a fiduciary is someone who puts the needs of their client ahead of their own. And so, again, I like to use examples. So say that you have a situation to where you are investing for a client,
Right.
okay? And you have the opportunity to buy into, let's just say, Apple, and you have the opportunity to buy into it first. But you also have this client, and you have the opportunity for them to buy into it ahead of you. And so a fiduciary, they would put the need of their client, allowing them to buy that security ahead of their own, even if it meant that the fiduciary didn't make, the money that they potentially could have. You're ultimately putting the needs of your clients ahead of your own. Simply put, it's what a fiduciary is.
Plain and simple, man. I like it.
I love it.
Keep it simple. Now, what's your thoughts on that, Mike?
Yeah, I mean, I've heard the word fiduciary float around in real estate world all the time, and I always like, well, what the hell does this mean? It just sounds like something on your foot. That's what I used to say all the time when I first heard it, like a new disease coming on somebody. But yeah, no, I think that's awesome, man. So let me ask you this: why should it matter to a consumer in terms of like, everything that composites of a financial planner? Like, what value should consumers understand? Because you got people out here who really think like they can just Google stuff. I don't know about your field, but in mine, people like, oh, I could just go on Zillow. And I'm like, Zillow's inaccurate. And Zillow even tells you it's inaccurate if you read their website content. So, like I guess in the what value does financial planning have for a consumer, when you're giving them some expertise and help?
Sure. So I'll answer this in regards to an example. So if I'm working with somebody, and I've learned this through a real estate transaction, you know what you know. I don't know what you know. And so I'm going to use the professional. And I would want someone to act in my best interest versus their own when it comes to money. Money is very, very emotional.
Yep.
And so, and I'm going to kind of go a little bit step further and talk about a certified financial planner. And so I mentioned this kind of at the top. So there are people that put themselves out there that say they're a fiduciary or they're a financial planner. So a certified financial planner, you have to have a bachelor's degree. You have to complete a CFP approved course, and I liken it to a master's program. You have to have 6,000 hours of
Wow.
professional experience related to the financial planning process. And in my case, at the time back in the day when I became a certified financial planner, I had to take a 10-hour exam. So,
Wow.
and for me to maintain my certification, I have to do so much CE every couple of years, and I have to have ethics. And also, for me to be a fiduciary, I have to hold myself out to a higher standard than someone who is not a certified financial planner. And if I am not a fiduciary and I am not acting in the best interest of my client, then I lose, or I could be put on probation for my CFP. And to take it a step further, when I was with a prior institution, there was a conflict where they wanted me to sell a product, and I would say no because that violates doing things in the best interest of my client, and I can't do that. And it was in conflict. And so, but I hold my CFP designation, higher than any firm that I worked for before, because I knew that that was going to be my lifeline for the long term.
Right. Wow. I mean, all those hours to be able to get into that. I'm over here complaining about the 63 hours we got, and then the 14 continued hours of education, and thinking, oh man, this sucks in real estate. That's amazing, man. So Just a sub question before I pass over here to Eric too. With that being said, like the type of clients that you have, if someone wanted to be a financial planner in that way, what do you have advice for people to kind of like? I know in your case you work with clients that are grieving and in that specialty, but just in general, is there something if someone was like, man, I'm watching this, I aspire to kind of be similar to that, I kind of want to look into that field. Is there anything resources that people could use to kind of like get clients or attract clients?
Yeah. So the thing that I would say is to get yourself in a situation to where you're working with like-minded people.
Oh yeah,
And
that's been
so yes, it's powerful. And to
yeah.
get yourself a mentor. Before I
Yes.
went off on my own, I went off and I got a female mentor who was older than me. And she opened the floodgates and got me from point A to point Z to where I could be completely independent. I'm considered a registered investment advisory. I have my own firm. And so she got me over the hump. I didn't want to do all the back office stuff, and she really helped me. So I would get yourself a mentor. And again, some of the websites that I mentioned before, the Financial Planning Association, the CFP.net, there's a world of information there. It's not necessarily just for a consumer to find a professional. It's a consumer maybe learning about the profession. Maybe they want to enter the profession. Or maybe they want to get some information for their college child who is looking to be in the profession. Wealth of information there.
Yeah, definitely. Having a
Okay.
mentor is powerful, man. Definitely.
Heck yeah. So, Chris, as far as your company you work for, that's your company, right?
It is. It's called Life After Grief Financial Planning.
Okay. And I guess did you work with another group before that, or is that
I
just
yeah, I worked with there was 3 other firms that I worked with.
okay?
And I like to kind of keep them off the radar because I don't
No, that's
somebody
fine.
can
That's
go,
fine.
yeah, somebody can go through my background through the
You ain't got
site.
to name them, man.
Yeah. So I do that because I don't want anybody to think bad or anything of any of
Right.
the prior institutions. But my firm, it's been open for 5 years, and man,
Awesome.
I've been blessed. I
That's
have
good.
been absolutely blessed.
Heck yeah. So what made you decide to take on that the responsibilities of opening your own firm? I know that's probably a pretty big jump for compared to working with somebody else, right?
Yeah, it's a pretty big jump. So I had built my book of business 3 times before, and I'd worked for 3 other institutions, and I came to a crossroads. I had this experience, this grief experience, and there was nothing more daunting in my life at that point than having that experience and being able to help the people that I wanted to help. And then I had young boys, and I felt I was missing time with my boys and my wife. And so I, I remember this very clearly. My wife and I are very into exercising. And so we were on the track here in East Orlando, and we were walking. And I said, "Hey, babe, I'm thinking about going off on my own, completely my own, building my own technology and doing it all from the ground up. And it's going to be for our family." And she's like, "I'm ready to support you, whatever you need to do." And so my wife was about ready to go back to work. She's a registered nurse, and we needed benefits, obviously, having a young family. And so I kind of made the jump because of family. I didn't feel like the corporations really cared 100% about their employees. And I wanted to be able to spend as much time with my kids as possible. You never know what happens.
Right.
Today is here, tomorrow is not promised at all. And so, and this one, we all have, family. So this one will hit home. So I was in my office like I am now. And I was supposed to be 2 hours away. This is after I resigned. I was supposed to be 2 hours away meeting a client. I had to put it on my schedule as if I weren't resigning, but I had already resigned by that point. And my kid's school called and said, "Your son has a fever. It's like 101 and 102 temperature." I'm less than 10 minutes from my son's school. And I said, "You know what? I'll be right there." And so when I talk about that now, I get goosebumps because if nothing else, at that moment, it was the absolute right decision for me to make career wise because I did it in the best interest of my family. And I was able to shoot over and get my son and comfort him. And he knows that daddy is there. and daddy is comforting and he cares about me. And that's what it's all about, man. And so that's really, why I made the jump.
Heck yeah, that's awesome, man. I mean, family first, right?
100%.
We do a lot of things for our family. And that's kind of that's another reason why we're doing this show.
Yeah.
We're trying to put some good vibes out there and do some good things. So heck yeah. Now I heard you say technology. What type of technology did you start up with over there?
So the technology, and I don't want to lead anybody to believe that I actually created it. I'm not a techie. So the prior firm that I worked with had good technology, but one of the things that I discovered is that they had governors on the technology. It means they stripped it.
Okay.
And so when I went into the open market, I figured out how great the technology actually was. And so my clients and the clients that I had, some of the clients I've worked with for almost 20 years.
Okay.
And they followed me. And so that was a great feeling all the way around. They were used to this technology, even though it was stripped down, they were used to it. And so when I am working with a client, it's very important for a client to be comfortable and forget, because somebody in grief is going to forget. They're going to forget what happened 5 minutes ago. I may not even, I'm not in grief mode right now, but I may forget what happened 5 minutes ago. My kids running amok, I might forget. So there are things that I do particularly to make sure that my client, if they forget, all they have to do is think of a user ID and a password.
Okay.
So I have a piece of technology, and you can just imagine this like a bank. So I have a vault, and it's an electronic vault to where we store basically all of the information. And again, I'll use an example. There was a client that I was working with. Her mother passed away, and she was having the car transferred to her name.
Okay.
Friday afternoon, late, and she goes to the DMV and she forgets to take the title paperwork. And she starts calling me, and I don't know what I was doing, but I either didn't have my phone with me or whatever, but she remembered we have this electronic vault. And she went into the electronic vault while she was at the DMV, pulled out the title, printed it out or emailed it to them, and she was able to transfer the title into her name. So it's just things like that, because I have the experience and I'm able to make things a lot easier for clients. One of the other things too is that I have technology. So we all have bank accounts. We all probably have credit cards. We have some sort of loans. I have technology that integrates that all in one source. So I don't have to go back to the client and say, okay, well, what is the balance in this account, or what's the balance in that account? It tells us both live. And so I can see that real time, and they can see it real time, and it just makes things a lot easier on both accounts. I can't do anything, or I can't manipulate their accounts. I only see it. They can go ahead, log in on their own websites and do whatever they need to do, but it just makes it a lot more seamless.
Okay.
Yep.
Awesome, man. Tech's a big part of all of our lives. I mean, every day we're doing something new with tech. I know Mike's got a lot of tech on their end. Randall, I got a lot of tech on our end. So, what's your thoughts on that, Mike?
Yeah, I mean, technology is definitely something that we it's just constantly evolves, man. I remember when I was a kid, typewriters was in style. Now look, we're all on computers. We went from Murder She Wrote days to being on the internet and high speed, and now we're all able to be connected. Like so. Back then, if you want to go play with a friend down the road, you got to knock on the door. Can you come outside? Now you can just hop on a phone, FaceTime somebody. It's just technology, man. It's evolved. If you don't catch up, you're gonna be left behind. That's what it's feeling like.
No doubt.
Yeah. So with going a little bit back, kind of delving into what you do for your expertise, like what are the costs associated to become that? I know you were mentioning about taking some courses, license, getting some hours. How does the cost work around that?
So are you talking about the cost to become a certified financial planner?
Right.
So there is a cost in regards to the program. So you have to go back to school essentially. So after you're done with your bachelor's, you have to be in a profession, related to financial planning. And then you have to take this course. And so the course is approved by the CFP board. And so you can go to the American College. There's a number of them. And I'm just going off of memory.
Right.
I believe it's probably in the $4,000-$5,000 range ish. And that's outside of actually preparing for the exam, because you take this course and the course is, I don't know, maybe 1 to 2 years. Um, and then you have to go to basically a cram session for a couple of days. And then that's, a separate cost that could be up to $1,000. And then you have to, sit for the exam. The exam, Mike, you talked about technology now. Well, when I took it, it was all basically Scantron.
Oh, wow.
And people that don't know what Scantron is.
Yeah.
So Scantron is, you have these little bubbles, A, B, C, D, E, and you have to fill in the circle with a pencil. Well, now it's on the computer. And the exam that I took, again, it was a 10-hour exam. It was split up over 2
Ooh,
days.
jeez.
So it's
10
not
hours.
it's not for the light of heart. I mean, you have to channel another
Man,
level
yeah.
to be able to get through this. So I think those are probably the expenses. So just kind of wrap that up. You have to basically pay for the sort of like a master's degree in financial planning. It's akin to that. And then you have to pay for the review course if you elect to do that. And then you have to pay for the exam. So it's not, I'd say it's not cheap. The way that I went about it is the companies that I worked for, they paid for it.
Yep. That's the benefit if you can have that. And I
Yes.
mean, it's
Very
like it doesn't
dedicated.
matter what type of career field we're in. There's always there's always going to be an expense. You got to pay to play. And if you really want to get into it, I mean, being a realtor, it's not free to become a realtor. Many of you guys hear about our commission checks and see these realtors posting, "Oh, I just had this lovely closing," but they ain't gonna tell you about all the fees and the splits that they got to give the brokerage. And when you add all that up, Eric know what I'm talking about. When you add all
Man,
that up, it's
the
it.
fees. Take a look at the ad spend that it takes to get there sometimes. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
it to bring those clients in at times, unless you're working strictly off sphere and family and friends, you still gotta go out and find the business. So it's definitely some money involved on that side.
Absolutely. I mean, people don't account for the fees that professionals in general have to pay for. And when people come, I'm pretty sure you might have experienced this as well too. They come to you and they're just kind of like, you have to set expectations because people come in with this mindset and don't realize this is not how it works. I don't care how much HGTV you watch about real estate. That's not real life. It's TV, So, and the same in your respective field, people come to you. You probably have to set expectations with these clients. Have you had situations where you had a challenging client who, you just had to kind of like, hey, this is what it's going to be? Because I'm dealing with that right now in real estate. I'm telling somebody, they might be watching this, but oh well. I'm telling somebody basically, hey, look, you have to put your home where things are going to sell, because if you don't, you risk leaving on the market longer. And these are expectations set at the beginning, but sometimes people want to do what they want to do, and you tell them. And have you had that situation happen with you as well?
I have. So sometimes I have to be very direct. I'm not always very direct.
Right.
It depends on the individual. You guys know that. So there have been situations where I've had to say to a client, you need to just take my advice and listen to me on this one, because
Facts.
because I've been doing this for a long time, and it's not because I'm smarter than you. It's because I've done this for a long time and I've seen the trends in the market, and I have other friends that are doing this that are more experienced than me. And I have other clients that I've been working with a long time that have experienced a lot of this too. So just take the advice. And the nice thing, the folks that do take the advice, I had one client very recently. I've been telling them for the longest time, you guys are young and we are invested per your guide, and we need to just stay in it. And so, when we're having a lot of this volatility in the market, the husband comes to me and he said, Chris, I think this is an opportunity to put money in the market. And I said, how long have I known you, dude? And you're finally getting that. And so I said, and he was basically saying it word for word, what I would say to him. And he's like, I got you. You've done well by us for a long time. And so let's put some more money to work. And I said, awesome, man. You got it. But yeah, that happens, Mike. it happens.
Yeah, man, yeah. I mean, I'm the same, man. I have to tell people all the time, I set expectations from the beginning, and it's just listening to you. It sounds like no matter what field you're in, we all have the core basis of similarities. Setting expectations, doing consultations, screening clients, seeing if there's somebody we could work with. Like all of us are kind of saying the same thing. We just have different avenues of going about it. So I completely agree with you, my friend. So I'll make sure I turn over here to Eric though, man, because I can go on this mic all day. I love what I'm hearing though. I love what I'm
Yeah,
hearing.
no doubt. Hey, so Chris, on that investment end, what's your thoughts on cryptocurrency? Do you do anything with that with any of your clients, or?
I do not invest in cryptocurrency for any one of my clients. So I explain this, basically, this is what I say to my clients. If you want to invest in cryptocurrency, I would recommend that you open up a self-directed account somewhere else and you do that on your own. And I say that because what I do for a client is based on a long track record and history. And it's
Right.
also based on certain questions they answer in regards to their investment risk preference. Cryptocurrency is not in that realm. And I can't predict, that into what we're doing. And
Right.
so the recent volatility, I'm not going to go into too much detail, would have completely wiped out anything that we would have done. And I
Yeah.
just can't incorporate that. And there's not enough track record there. And frankly, it's not necessarily regulated the same as anything in the Security and Exchange Commission, although it's trying to get there, but it's not
Right.
regulated. And so if I'm, investing for a client specifically, I'm less aggressive than the client thinks they are.
Okay.
And there's a rule that I learned from a gentleman a long time ago. I would rather be fired for not making enough for for a client versus being fired for losing too much.
Wow, powerful.
Makes sense. Yeah,
Yeah,
I get
yeah,
you on that. It's
So, in cryptocurrency, I can't
pretty
predict
volatile.
that. Yes, it's very volatile. And the other thing about cryptocurrency, and this is not necessarily crypto, but this is any kind of thing in the market. It could be real estate, it could be anything. When I have family members coming to me telling me that I should invest in cryptocurrency or that I should invest in real estate or I should invest in this, that's a red flag for me. 100%.
Was it Thanksgiving last year? Hope you didn't have any of that.
Right.
There's a lot of people who bought at the top end and didn't get out in time. So no, that's it's pretty cyclical and stuff. It's hasn't hit that stable investment yet for something probably like what you're doing with a client's money on that. If you're doing a bunch of in and out trade and stuff, it might be a little easier for you. But volatility and what you're dealing with, that's all you need to do is add more grief to people's investment portfolios, right?
Sure.
Now, so on the real estate side, do you do anything with the real estate investment with your clients at all, or
The real estate investing that I do with clients
right?
is on the security side. So we have
Okay,
REITs, real
okay,
estate investment trusts that we do, but they're traded on the open market. But that is incorporated.
right.
That is absolutely incorporated in any one of the portfolios that I would manage for a client.
Okay. Awesome. So one way to get into real estate investing without buying real estate, right?
Yeah. Conversely, two different worlds. One is
Yeah.
liquid and one is not liquid.
Oh yeah. It's
wow.
nice when it's pretty liquid, right? Well, heck
Yeah.
yeah. What's your thoughts on that, Mike? I know you don't do much on the crypto side, but you definitely do stuff in the real estate investment.
Yeah, I mean, I this is a little bit off track from what we were just talking about, but I've had this conversation actually with somebody in my neighborhood about real estate versus stocks, which is a whole nother conversation. But we talked about the importance of investing and to build financial wealth. We did agree on that. However, we just had our different perspectives when it came to real estate versus stocks, which I won't get into that on this show. But considering that we have an expertise financial planner after the show, I might have to ask her some questions because I got something for my neighbor down the road with some stocks, man.
Well, you're not off track. So my philosophy is I can't advise someone if I haven't done it first.
Right. Right.
So you talk about
Makes
real
total sense.
estate. Yeah, real estate. I go back to the early 2000s, when I took some heavy risk in real estate, and I
Yeah.
can, talk to people because I've done it.
Yeah.
Right.
I've made my mistakes in real estate. But again, because I'm a financial person, I've been able to shield myself and protect myself in that
Gotcha.
regard. So,
Now on those the REITs, how exactly do those work?
well, a REIT, you could just look at a REIT. So, for example, you can trade a REIT very similarly to a mutual fund, where you can, buy one. And I'm just going to make up a REIT.
Right.
And so, say it's a Chris Dale's REIT. And so, you could just basically buy that on the open market. Where a house, you're lucky if you are closing. And I'm not going to say in the last probably 6 months, but in a realistic market in 30 days. Okay.
Right.
And so you have a REIT, something that's related to real estate that is liquid. You're in and out of it in a couple of days. Um, but conversely, if you're holding a piece of property, as you guys well know, for 5-10 years, 5% on average, that's a pretty good return, over a 5 or 10 year period.
Right.
Um, a REIT, a single REIT, which I, wouldn't recommend a specific one. We'll see what the return is on that over time. I would incorporate that into a well-diversified portfolio.
Awesome. Yeah. Speaking of diversification, I'm assuming you're pretty big on diversification here with your clients, right?
I am very
Okay.
much so. Yep. There are some clients that try to fight me on diversification. And I say, we are not going to try to outguess the market. We're not going to try to outtime the market because I'm not smarter. What I can tell you, and I've done this for clients, is I track recessions. And I'm going to say outside of these past couple of years, but recessions generally happen every 7 years. And generally, when there's not a COVID-19, when there isn't a government that's pumping a lot of money into the economy to try to thwart off whatever happened with COVID, those are anomalies.
Right.
Or when there's a president that is speaking, and it gets the whole market shaky. Those things are anomalies and it really shouldn't happen. But outside of that stuff, give or take, it should happen every 7 years. And those things can be kind of predicted. And the things that I do with clients, if we're getting to like that 7 year mark ish, I'm saying, things are getting a little bit high, just like they were in real estate.
Right.
And I think we should pull off the gas a little bit and maybe be a little bit more conservative. There may be some volatility ahead.
Yeah, no doubt. No, I know right now on the real estate side, we're definitely seeing some volatility there with the pricing and just we're seeing less mortgage applications, less offers. I mean, it's definitely slowing down out there. I'm sure you're seeing that down there in Orlando, right, Mike?
I mean, yeah, just in general, the prices are starting to go down. So a lot of people are talking about interest rates going up, and then there's like, hey, I think I'm going to wait to buy a house. But when you break things down and you get with the lender who can kind of help them understand about reverse mortgages or arm mortgages, like the different types of mortgage that they have, and then they can refinance later and get a lower rate despite the rate slightly increasing. You know, people have options. So I always give solutions and options to buyers because they're just listening, like I said, to the HGTV worlds out here, getting misinformed all the time. And then they make a decision like, hey, I don't want to do this. So while the market changes, rates go up, prices come down, or prices go up, rates go down. So, it's always going to shift. And like Chris was saying, every so often, a few years, you're not going to see the same market. I mean, what we in 2022, go back to 2011, a lot of short sales, foreclosures, and now you don't see as many foreclosures. But who knows, if something goes to shit again, then you might get back to that same market in 2011 in the near future. So it's one of those things that you just have to kind of stay ahead of as an expert in the field. And ironically, all of us are related throughout real estate in different avenues. I might be on this branch of real estate, and financial planning might be on this branch of real estate, but we're still interconnected through real estate because it's land. It has value. So any type of purchase that someone gets through it's like, man, real estate is a center focal point of that. But yeah, so let me ask you this, man. Like, how does it work with people from other states? Are you able to like? Is I guess I don't want to sound too crazy, but is the financial planning like once you go and meet the qualifications, are you only allowed to do the state of Florida, or can you help clients from other states? Like, how does that work?
That gets a little bit complicated, but I'm going to simplify it. So I can help out a certain amount of people in other states, but I have to basically get registered in another state if it's a certain amount of folks.
Gotcha.
Um, that's really the only difference, is me being registered. And if there's a client from another state, and I have clients that have lived here and have moved elsewhere, so it would be basically the same thing that you're talking about, Mike. But
Gotcha.
that really doesn't make a difference if they live in another state. What would make a difference if there was a person that lived in Florida versus California, where they have state income tax? That
Yeah.
would make a difference on the financial planning side.
Got you. Now, if it comes to like referrals, within the proximity that you serve, do you have like a network of databases or financial planners that you can say, hey, I'm going to send you over to this person, maybe in Miami, because they can better service you for what you're looking for? Is that how that works? How does like referrals work if you feel like there's a client that might be better served somewhere else?
Yeah, so my referrals are a little bit different because of the niche that I have. Again,
Hmm.
people are seeking me out because of the nature of what I do. And so in a normal kind of world, when it's not so specific as to what I do, and there are people that, come to me and say, "Hey, I've just have other friends that have heard about you, or I want to work with you." Um, and I'll find someone else. And I have a very, very good network of folks. I actually belong to a group of people like me. It's probably several thousand people. If there's a question that I don't know, I'll go to this group and say, "Hey, can you figure out this for me?" I'll let this kind of brain trust go to work, and they very quickly, come back. For instance, I had a opportunity to work with a gal that was a widow, but she was from Guatemala and she preferred speaking Spanish with an advisor. I'm not bilingual. I understand, Spanish enough, but it wasn't going to work in our capacity. So I reached out to my network and I quickly got a planner. Actually happened to be here in Orlando, very, very well respected planner that spoke Spanish. And it was very quick.
Wow, that's convenient. So you have a community of network where you can just kind of reach out and then you guys can talk amongst each other. And see, that's powerful because so many people get into these types of fields and they don't have the proper guidance. They don't have the proper resources. And then they get discouraged. I hear it all the time. I don't want to join go real estate because it's too much work, or I got to take tests and or I don't know where to go. And if people have a community of people and an effective mentor, as you mentioned earlier, it makes the field a lot less intimidating. And I honestly, man, just like after hearing you talk, I really think a lot of people don't really want to put in the work. I'm listening to everything. Like, this just didn't gloss over my head, man. Like, you talking about the hours of training you spent, the school dedication, the adversities you came from to even get in this position. Like, compiling all of that in, it's like, geez, man, this guy right here is a guy that I feel should be the Avenger on the movies, man. You got the Infinity Stones, my brother. So, it's just amazing at how you're able to do all that, man. So I salute you, bro. Like, this is so much
Appreciate
respect.
it.
And man, I'm excited that you're sharing this, man, because it's inspiring to me too. Because I'm taking what you're saying and I'm inspired by it. I'm looking at it like, well, man, there's things in my field that I could take from what you're saying and apply to myself in my own business as I'm branding myself and growing. So thank you so much for sharing that, man. That's powerful.
Yeah, my
Very
pleasure.
powerful. Yeah,
Good
man,
stuff.
absolutely. So I one quick question, man, and I don't know, Eric, if you got another one that you want to slide in. But um oh yeah, but
No, I was
I
gonna
was
say
going to
I'm good, man. I just enjoy listening to Chris talk, man. It's
oh,
good.
hey, I'm telling you, I'm at a point where I'm like, let me just
Hey,
sit back and listen. I don't even know if I want to ask any more questions because this man is spitting some gems here,
yeah,
man.
I, I get
But
so many of these financial planners that hit me up wanting to do some financial planning and stuff like that, and I'm like, God, I
Yeah,
clicked on the
there we
wrong
go.
I clicked on the wrong Facebook group, and then I start getting them where I post the wrong thing on LinkedIn. So it's good to get some legit, real information from a guy like Chris here. So I appreciate it, Chris.
Now, I had another question too. Now, is this something that's could be done at home, online, like through a laptop, or is this something like I know for your business it's unique, but just in general, are people are they considered like independent contractors or employees? Like, what's the classification on that?
Are you talking about the people that work for a company, or are you talking about somebody wanting to do it themselves? I want to just make sure I'm understanding the question correctly.
Yeah, well, I guess you kind of answered it because I'm assuming if they work for a company, they're the employee, and if they work for themselves, they'll be more 1099, like right.
Yep,
So you
that's
have the option of doing both.
yeah. So um, I'll give you some specifics as in regards to my business. So I don't have any other employees that work for me. And the nature of technology is that I can outsource a lot of the work that I need done. And so I don't necessarily have to have an employee. I have an assistant that I work with, and she is 1099, and she's probably the best assistant that I've ever had in my career. And
Wow.
because she can work on her time, and
Hmm.
she just has to do what I need her to do, and it's a beautiful relationship. And the nature about technology is I have a client, and I need to get all of their information, so I can build them a financial plan, so to speak. And the technology now versus 10 or 15 years ago, I talk to a client and have a conversation with them. I put in all this information on the technology, and then I have them go in and fill out the blanks on there. And so it just completely speeds up what we are able to do, in regards to a process. And I coach younger planners because someone was asking me, well, how long does it take you to do a financial plan for a client? I'm not going to tell you guys how long it takes me, but it's not as long as you think. So another one of the planners that I was talking to said, man, it takes me like 10 to 15 hours to build a
Wow.
plan for a client. And I said, yeah, maybe when I was first starting out, it may have taken me that long. And that was without all the technology. But now, because the clients have bought in and it's just really a conversation, they're doing a lot of the heavy lifting, and I'm just putting the things in their proper buckets, so to speak.
Right. Right. Yeah, that makes sense. So basically, with experience, it comes the time frames are expedited.
Yes, very much so. Yep. It
Gotcha.
doesn't take me that long to build a financial plan for a client at this stage of the game.
So with mentors, I'm assuming that if it's a 1099, they would have their own kind of split of like maybe like a percentage that they would obtain from the labor from whoever they're mentoring. Is that how that works in that field?
Well, I'll get a little bit more detailed about that. So I'm a fee only financial planner. And so I only charge a flat fee depending on what I'm doing for a client. I may charge them kind of, there's three kind of separate ways that I would charge a client. And then I'll kind of get into an employee relationship. So a flat fee, meaning I could charge them hourly. A set dollar amount I would charge hourly, depending on the scope of work, or I could charge them a set fee for something that's unique. Maybe they need just help with cash flow, so I charge them a set fee for that. If there's a financial plan that they need built out, then there's a separate fee for that. If I'm managing investments, there's a fee structure for investments that is separate from all that other stuff that I described. If there's an employee arrangement, you got to be careful because I am much like a lot of other firms are fee only. So I couldn't necessarily compensate an employee or someone on a commission structure because that would violate, what I'm doing. It would have to be a fee, and it would be a simple, you're working as a 1099 employee for X, Y, and Z company or Life After Grief Financial Planning. I am paying you, a simple structure is I'm paying you, $5 an hour. And it would have to basically break down like that. Then you start, if you're outside of that scope, then you're kind of violating the fee only structure. And then you could get into some things that are a little bit more complicated, and you could drive the 1099 employee to do some other things or some other behaviors that you wouldn't necessarily be in the best interest of the client. So you want to avoid all that stuff.
Gotcha.
So I hope that'll answer your question.
Yeah, it did. It did. It did. And it's important to know that kind of stuff because I'm learning about how other entities do their mentor and also trying to apply it to mine because I think a lot of I'm not speaking on every realtor, but in our field, I think so many people do kind of similar. They just join this brokerage, hang their license, and then all of a sudden they're like, okay, what do I do now? How do I get deals? How do I do this? And it sounds like across the board, mentors are very essential. There are just people who don't want to pay though a mentor for the knowledge and time because in their mind they want to keep all this money, but it's like this person is giving away their time. They're giving value to you, so you have to compensate this person for that because it's like, what do they gain out of giving you this for free unless they're your close relative? It doesn't work like that. It's business. People got to eat. So yeah, no, I'm certainly glad that you shared that with us, man. So it looks like we're oh, go ahead.
So
Go
I was
ahead. You
going to
got something?
mention something in
Yeah.
regards to the mentor that I have, the lady that I spoke about initially. So through the Financial Planning Association, they had a program, a mentoring program, where you could get
Hmm.
6 months of free mentorship through this organization. And then I had one of the brightest minds in financial planning. I had her at my disposal for free for 6 months. And then after that 6 months, I was happy to stroke a check to her on an ongoing basis because she was so good. And I absolutely did that. It was well
Right.
worth it.
Yep. Absolutely. And that's huge, man. And growing the business, man. So it looks like we're almost about wrapped up here because we have a few minutes left. And before I close out, man, I first want to say thank you again for taking time, man. This hour went by fast as usual. So thank you so much for coming on, man.
Thanks for the
Is there
opportunity.
Of course, man. Is there anything that you would like to tell the people that you might have not touched on? And also, how can they get a hold of you if they want to come to you for business, get some financial planning advice?
Sure. I'll start off with the last. So my website, it's lifeaftergrieffp.com. Very, very simple. Life after grief, F as in financial, P as in planning.com. That's how folks can reach me. And probably the number one, and I'm going to say this, the pro tip, I'm going to steal you guys, your terminology. So the pro tip is if you're searching for somebody to work with you and your money, I would search for a fee only certified financial planner. You're not going to go wrong there. Again, they've had a gazillion amount of hours behind them and a lot of training. And again, you don't know what you don't know as a consumer. And these folks can steer you in the right direction, much like a good realtor can.
Wow,
Awesome.
powerful,
Good
powerful,
stuff.
powerful. Yeah. And to add on to that, as a realtor, for me, you can reach me at MikeSalesOrlando.com, and I work for LPT Realty, so I have my contact info on there, and I'll let Eric give his outro as well.
So, yep, I'll throw down everyone's contact information below there, so you ain't got to go back and watch it. But Eric Berry, I also do real estate too here in Georgia, but also we do marketing here for small businesses, helping out in that end too. So, great show today, Chris, Mike, as usual. Randall, thinking the back end, do appreciate it. But definitely great conversations.
Thanks, guys.
Indeed, indeed, indeed. Thank you guys. So make sure you stay tuned in, and we are over and out.